So the weird thing about the last month and a half has just been getting back in the flow of things, and then one sickness after the other. I just spent 2 weeks, I guess, with COVID and post-COVID, like, autonomic dysregulation or something. I'm not sure, but I'm still getting back in the flow of things, and the thing is, I've been doing stuff. I've been doing little world-building projects and stuff like that, but I've been kind of hopping around where I'm inspired because I just haven't had the time or the energy to really, like, go in and finish anything. So I thought, well, I'm not ready to make, like, a video going through how to world build a, like, food and food-related things for a world, etc. I can kind of talk about just what I'm researching. So I think that'll be maybe an interesting video, and I'll just kind of talk about the various things I'm looking into. So I've been all over the place, and I thought I'd just kind of take you with me and show you kind of what I'm looking at, what I'm working on, kind of what I'm putting together as I do it, and as I try and get organized and figure out what I'm doing, because that's been a big thing right now. I guess when I get pulled out of things, I have to restructure and organize them so that I can sort of fit myself back into everything. So I've been working on, like, my streaming setup so that I can do that. I've been doing a lot of stuff to this room, which you'll see my giant, like, super sack, love sack thing back there. My daughter always comes in and moves it, but I have this floor cushion thing I'm setting up to be able to start working on floor sitting a little bit while I'm doing things, just to help with posture. I obviously have a little mini desk sitting right here to kind of L-shape my current desk, because for some reason working in a corner is, like, being boxed in a corner like this is just, I can't put myself in there and focus. Like, so far this being more open has been helping. So I'm just going through and figuring things out and trying to get organized again. But it is October now, so it is even more appropriate for my ridiculous hat here and my bluey Halloween shirt, which we're a big bluey house here. But I'm getting back into my, like, conlanging streams and everything, although my hat's all messed up. I don't know. But it's been a whole thing. So I guess let me show you what I've been working on.
Horticulturist is arranging the plants in an expert manner such that they receive the optimum degree of sunlight and provide the optimum amount of beauty.
Okay, so the thing I've been researching right now from a world building guide perspective, which partially, I'm not sure if this is going to be the next video. I hadn't originally planned for it to be, but I've been working on this for my own world that I'm building right now, so it's what I've been looking into. But I've been researching food anthropology, and I've taken a lot of notes on this, and I've kind of dived into this a little bit when it comes to, like, having that core like taxable crop when it comes to my cultural world building guide series, and figuring out where different types of crops that are more optimal for that or not are available in different places. So I have that idea of that, like, staple taxable crop, which is typically like a grain, rice being the most efficient. But I've been also going through and kind of figuring out, like, okay, well, what other things would be available, going through and doing research on that. I have a lot of notes on both, like, there's the availability of crops and other food sources that needs to be taken into account, but also the relationship between food and, cultural identity. So looking at meal structure, religions and rituals, different, like, prohibited foods and, like, taboos, prescriptional foods, and just differences between people of different classes, of different amounts of wealth, gender differences with food, just tons of stuff like that that can portray a lot of information. And I haven't gotten too deep into all of this. I mostly just have some like high level ideas everywhere right now. But it's a lot. There's so much that goes into just food in general. Like you'd be surprised how much room there is for like world building potential. So I have like 4 or 5 pages of notes right now just based off my like internet searching a little bit. And then I'm starting to work through some texts I got. So the big one I'm starting with is the Social Archaeology of Food, which is by Christine Hastorf, who is a professor. And my secret hope is that I can read this book and a bunch of others and then email her and be like, hello, would you like to talk about world building things with me? And she'll be like, I'm a Cambridge professor. I don't have time for this. But I can try. So I'm reading that one. I have Feasts here. Well, can you see that? There you go. Feast, Archaeological and Ethnographic Perspectives on Food, Politics, and Power. And this is by, I guess, Smithsonian is what it says, but edited by Michael Diedler and Brian Hayden. I have this other book on the archaeology of food by Catherine C. Twiss. I have The Story of Food in the Human Past by Robiny Cutright. And those are all, fine and good. But then I have procured perhaps the most wonderful books when it comes to food. And that is in 2 volumes. Oh, God. The Cambridge World History of Food. These are massive, and I got used library copies because, again, they're massive. Like, buying these new is hundreds and hundreds of dollars, so I found, like, used library ones for a reasonable price. And so this one is, 1,100 something pages. This one is another 1,000 some hundred pages. Like, it's dense, it's huge, and it's, like, not something I'm reading cover to cover, but I've been going through and making notes of everything that I think is relevant for my world that I'm building. So it has a lot of different sections. Like, I have all the main, like, crops and plants and animals. I have, like, sticky noted, and then there's a section, mainly in this book, that's based off, like, different regions. And so I've marked out the sort of similar climate regions because they'd have similar kind of plants. And I want to make sure that I'm not replicating real world cuisines to an extent. Like, I need all the words I use to be recognizable and for it to make sense. But I want to do something interesting with it. And then I have marked all the little sections that I need to read for both this world and also for the actual world building guide, which is like a section on psychology, fads, taboos, social and cultural uses. Then there's like a whole dictionary of plant foods and stuff. So I have a lot of reading to keep doing here. But that's sort of been my world research section for food. And I don't know, it's just so cool. Like, there's so many different things. Like, even just looking at the type of, like, food preservation and storage you have available, like, because I find the idea, and I don't know if I'm unique in this, but when I'm writing, if I get to a scene, I'm like, oh, I need to describe a food. Unless I'm just going with, like, your generic, like, European, medieval, commercialized, fantasy meal or whatever, I have no idea what to write. Like, I don't know. And so I like the idea of taking something limiting to start with, which is sort of like the climate and what grows there, right? So I like to find, sets of ingredients that would make sense in those places and then try and find, like, different ways for it to be cooked. Like, I'm looking at a lot of cuisine in, like, Southeast Asia, some Korean food, some Northern Vietnamese is a very similar climate region. But, a lot of stuff over there in the regions I'm looking at, you see a lot of, like, steamed foods and stuff like that. And so I'm thinking to kind of separate it. Maybe I'll go away from steamed foods and I'll do more, like, baking. But I need to figure out how that would work and what type of things, like, that you can make. Like, I just don't want it to feel like a stereotypically a certain type of food. And also because, like, I've been watching a ton of historical Korean TV. So, like, I'm a lot more familiar with that cuisine than I am with some other places, because that's also, like, I've been watching a lot of, like, Joseon era stuff, and that's a similar time period. And I am pulling some inspiration from pieces of that, but the way their culture around food works, and the way, like, the use of chopsticks, the tea ceremony, just like the way that the culture interacts with food does not work for my culture, right? Because it's a different culture, it's a different type of society. It's very different. So, like, I can't just take all those dishes and those, like, rituals and all of that stuff, like, it wouldn't fit. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like the actual food itself is less the important part, but, like, if I can pick a unique palette in terms of, like, spicing and stuff like that, and some unique, like, core preparation type things, like some staples, I think then it'll feel unique and groundable, and then just come up with some cool societal rituals around it and stuff. And again, I have not finished my research. I normally don't talk about this stuff until I've done my research, but I have a giant stack of books to read still on this, and I probably won't finish all of these for doing my, like, cuisine for the world I'm currently building, especially because it's not a particularly important part of my story. Like, the actual food rituals of, like, how you eat, when you eat, that sort of thing will be important, and then I just need to know enough to come up with some core dishes, right, just to reference them to make it feel a little bit more immersive in the world. But, like, food itself isn't a big thing. Even meals are not a big relevant plot thing in my narrative. I've written books where it is, but obviously I hadn't gone through this research, so, like, it was just generic, boring stuff. But, like, if I were to write something where cooking or eating or stuff like that was really integral to the narrative, right? Like, there's a lot of page time devoted to that. I would probably spend a ton of time digging into all of this stuff, but that's just not the story I'm telling. So I'll probably do, like, a basic pass through for what I need for my story right now, and then if it's either now or later, I'll go through and, like, go through all of them to do the world building guide part. But I'm excited. Food is crazy. So I've done a decent bit of mapping here of the alchemist workshop, of the high level of what the mansion will look like, her old place back in the city, more sketches of what this place would look like, individual rooms, another attempt at that, another building. But the thing is, despite all these maps, which I've done, and I tried to build it a little bit in Sims and in Incarnate too, and it's just, I'm running into this problem where, from a world building perspective, what I think is right for this place, like what would make sense based off, like, the architectural style that I've sort of designed for this society based on the climate and whatever, it doesn't necessarily work for what I want the story to be. I love the idea of having these tiered villas where I have the upper, central, and lower villa. And, you know, this is sort of the entryway where guests are, and then back here they don't really go. So I kind of limit it, even though it's a giant mansion, to this small section, which is sort of like the guest quarters and the hall, the workshops, the gardens, that sort of place. But if you can see, this is sort of based off open courtyard, sort of like a Korean Joseon era style. Not like, it doesn't look the same, but like that sort of arrangement where they're separate buildings. So this little square here with different buildings surrounding that courtyard is sort of the main area where they are, right? So, like, this one's the study. These two buildings here would be where people would live. But then the alchemist workshop's out here, and the gardens and greenhouses are out here. Which makes sense from a, like, map building, mansion building aesthetic purpose, but the problem is I want all my characters to be interacting a lot, and if they're in very separate places where it would take a while to walk, they're not necessarily going to be interacting as much. So I feel like, even though I'm extremely attached to this, which I really am, I really am very attached to it, I feel like I need to redesign it a bit and make it closer together, like somehow make the alchemist quarters connected to it. So I think what I need to do to redesign this so that it adds more conflict to my plot is I'm going to start with the places that matter, that they're going to be the most, and then build the rest of it around that and just make it work. And it doesn't have to be this perfect tiered villa thing where everything's like roughly symmetrical and balanced. Like, I don't need to keep to that aesthetic. There isn't necessarily a reason I need to. And I need to make it actually work for the story because I'm world building for a story, not just to make a pretty map. So I'm going to play around with some sketches for this, I think. And then, I don't know, maybe see if I can make a better map to reference going forward. Okay, so I've been realizing that having all my world building stuff in an online tool, even though it's great because it's safe and you can add to it easily and rework it and access it anywhere, it's just not working for me. So I've decided I really want more of a way to access all of my notes, both on character, world building, maps, all that sort of stuff when I'm writing or outlining and editing, I guess, all of that sort of thing. So I have a plan. I have a corkboard here. It's 3 feet by 4 feet, which I think should allow me to do like 5 pages by 3 pages if I want to just like post up reference sheets. And obviously I haven't even like opened this. And it's just sitting here. Yeah. But what I want to do is mount it to the desk in a way that I can access it and then pull this away from the wall there where I have windows if for some reason I want to open the windows. But I figure it's fine to block them for the most part because I very, very rarely open that. So yes, I went to Lowe's, I got some wood and some liquid nails, and I'm gonna see if I can make this work. It has been a little while since I've updated on this project, but I didn't take any more footage while I was finishing up, so here are just some clips I have, but basically it's working out great, which, as you can see here in the background, I have it all set up. I'll show you a little bit better, but it's attached down to the bottom, and it's pretty sturdy. It does really well. I can pin things to it, and it just kind of expands the space I have available, and I'm loving it. Basically just used these brackets to attach it at the bottom, which worked pretty well. But as you can see, it blends in pretty nicely. It overhangs a little bit on this side, but you can't really tell. Okay, so I just wanted to come in and give a quick update. I've still been kind of chugging along, working on random things, as you've seen with my whole project here, but one of the funny things that I wanted to show you is that we had some out-of-town guests come over, and I purchased a, do I have it right here? It's over there. But I purchased a sharp longsword to do my, experiment, 500k experiment, which I still, or not 500k, 5k. Gee, I'm not that famous, but I haven't done it yet, which there's been various scheduling shenanigans. I need to do it, but now it's cold. But they were like, can we, cut stuff with your sword? And I was like, okay. We were gonna try and buy a pumpkin and cut that just so that they could see, Plus I wanted a little bit of practice with it, so we couldn't get a pumpkin, but we got some various squash and stuff, and I tried cutting it with the pumpkin, so I will show you that footage now.
Mommy, cut that fruit.
Oh!
Ooh. I don't eat this ice cream alone. Mommy, when you're done, pick it back up so I can eat some cantaloupe.
Okay.
Also me, Mommy.
There you go. All right.
It was a lot of fun, to be honest. I'm very excited to do my actual experiment with the sharp sword, but we'll get there eventually. But anyway, I think I'm in a good place to wrap up this vlog now. I'm doing really good. I need to work on getting some outlining done, which I think is going to be one of my next goals, is to work on my outline and just get re-situated and re-focused, and then figure out what I'm going to do from there. But yeah, this vlog has been a little bit all over the place, which I did warn you about at the beginning, but yeah, that's what I got going on right now, and I will see you in the next one.